In 1965, Dr. Ira North of Nashville, Tennessee, spoke at Abilene Christian College's lectureship and asked the question, who's taking care of the poor of Abilene? Well, a small congregation at 16th Street and Vine answered that question and God's call. They opened a clothing closet and food pantry to help people in need. And from that, the Christian Service Center of Abilene was born. To best meet the needs of the poor in Abilene at that time, the center was strategically located on the first floor of the old El Rose Hotel at South 2nd and Oak Streets. Jesse Eubanks took the helm of leadership and, with the assistance of volunteers, led the benevolence location for 1 year. Many considered the outlook for this new ministry rather bleak, since it was totally reliant on volunteer labor. About the same time, the College Church of Christ chose to consolidate its benevolence ministry with the Christian Service Center. The agency began interfacing with other social service groups in the community to help close the gap in services provided in Abilene. The baton of leadership was passed to Peg Smith, a young, idealistic social worker who led the ministry for the next 5 formative years.
Precious memories of the paradise of the mind, and boy, do I have a memory lane of wonderful things that happened at the beginning of the Christian Service Center. There was no Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, nothing. And the dream became a reality of a social agency, not a benevolent program, but a social work agency that could fill the gaps of the existing agencies in the community at the time. So that's when I left child welfare, a paycheck, insurance, and perks, and on faith, went to the Christian Service Center. We took each family where they were. We learned to be resourceful. If we had a need, if we didn't have it, we didn't tell folk we didn't have it. We will find it. And one of the biggest frustrations we had, and one of the largest gaps in any service, or there was no service, was medical and dental care. And immediately we had Dr. Willingham, Dr. Saul B. Estes, Dr. Cox, Dr. Varner, that said, yes, we will donate a half a day a week to do a clinic. Examining rooms were set up. So Dr. Crowder, a dentist who was in the office building with John Estes, they donated a chair and worked among the dental association and rotated Wednesday afternoons of coming, and they would examine a person to determine what did they need, and then they would make a referral out to the other dentist. And so a great deal of dental work was done that the dentist did not charge. Everybody just pulled in, so we just said, hey, this is what we have a need for. Needed jeans, needed clothes, needed school supplies. So began going to devotionals in the dorms at ACC in the evenings and telling the kids what we needed. And then they'd have a car wash the following Saturday, or they'd do something for a fundraiser, and they would donate the money or designate it for blue jeans. And then if a child didn't have the gym suit that their school required by the 3rd day of class, they had failed. So that's also Operation Blue Jean. We began having money to buy the gym suits for the various schools and the school supplies. The school counselors began depending upon us. The health department at that time, the nurses went into the homes and into the community to do home visits. And so we all networked and worked very closely together. But that was the beginning of Operation Blue Jean. The Taylor County Commissioners decided it was time to build a new courthouse. And they said, you got to move. We're going to build a new courthouse, and this is going to be the parking lot. Well, that was devastating because we had nowhere to move. At that time, ACU was in a building campaign, and as they built and no longer had a need for barracks, they would donate, or you could buy barracks for a little of nothing. But we had one barrack that was moved from ACU to 901 Mesquite, and that's how the location started at 901 Mesquite.
By the end of 1968, more than $28,000 in cash, clothing, basic essentials, and services were distributed to the needy in Abilene and the surrounding area. In 1972, Paul Garrett became the 2nd director and ably led the ministry for 30 years as it became an integral part of Abilene's care for the poor. Garrett spearheaded the renovation of the barracks and developed many of the center's initiatives, which continue today. In 2003, Jim Clark became the center's 3rd director. Under his leadership, the CSC established a board of directors and became officially incorporated as a 501c3 nonprofit. During Clark's tenure, new programs have broadened how the center provides for the poor of Abilene. Monday through Friday, the Service Center helps people with basic needs and assists those facing a crisis, such as the sudden loss of a job, living with a disability, escaping an abusive spouse, or the employed who still don't have enough money to feed and clothe their families. CSC is here to provide food, clothing, kitchen items, blankets and heaters during our cold winters, and box fans to provide relief in our sweltering summers. And to our littlest neighbors, the CSC hands out toys, children's Bibles, and school supplies. Each client, or as the CSC says, neighbor, is greeted with respect and care, and each one is offered a Bible. A staff member or volunteer is always available to pray with these neighbors. The work done at the Christian Service Center is carried out by a small staff and a large group of volunteers sharing the love of Christ with those coming to the center for assistance.
We have about from 85 to 100 volunteers. We total, according to the records, about 17,000 volunteer hours each year. They feel touched by people who have needs that are very great. Our program about Work for Shelter has to do with the ones who are in a halfway house, and they contact me and I come and give them an orientation, and then we agree that they can volunteer here 12 hours here in exchange for 1 week at their halfway house. And we often have these people who come and they like it here and they say, well, after I get my job, I'm going to come back when I'm off. And sometimes they really can do that, and so that's been a real blessing.
There's a variety of reasons that people come to us for help at the Service Center. Poverty is very complex. Some of them are homeless. Some people are unemployed, some are underemployed. Some are what we call the working poor. They have a job, they're working full-time perhaps, and they may just have a minimum wage job. Like my friend Lou, who has struggles to keep work, but he's a hard worker, and every once in a while he'll call me and ask for prayer. We also help a lot of people who are just starting life over, men and women who have just got out of prison, people who came here to recover from alcohol and drugs, and they just need a fresh start, and we get to help them find clothing. Sometimes they'll volunteer with us. Another program that we offer is what we call responsible charity. We help people with rent and utilities each month, but we think it's important for them to give back in some way. And so we've implemented a program called Dignity Plus, where they can work 12 hours of community service after we help them. Within 30 days after our assistance, they can go to the food bank, other ministries, agencies, their church, and once they work their 12 hours, then they let us know and we'll help them in the future. Again, it gives them dignity. Another program is Standing in the Gap. And this is where we help people with rent, utilities, bus passes, gas vouchers, and medical prescriptions. We budget $16,000 a year to help people in those areas. On the first day of every month, we've either given out or pledged all the money we had budgeted for that month to people for rent and utilities. And then the next 28 days or 29 days of the month, we're telling people we're out of money. So it's a huge demand. Another ministry that I love is where we give out toys to kids. We have two volunteers that we affectionately call our toy ladies. They say they have the best job at the Service Center. And they come in and they organize all these toys that are donated, put them in these baskets. For example, there's one of panda bears, and they bundle them up, and then we give them out to boys and girls during the school year and especially at Christmas time. This community is so generous. I'm excited about the new building. There's going to be so many advantages of our new location at Woodlawn. For example, the receiving room will be so much bigger. We can barely fit some of the clothing that's put in our own building right now. But at that new building, we'll have a much larger space and we'll be able to handle the huge volume of clothing that comes in. And then the food pantry. It'll be about 3 times the size of our present one. It will have much more room for displaying more items. We'll get fresh produce, more frozen items, meats and so on. It'll be much more efficient for our volunteers to work there. And it provides us options for how we can serve our neighbors. Some may be able to shop themselves with our guidance.
The board is so excited about our new location and the potential that it offers us to expand our services throughout the neighborhood. We know that this will be an ongoing blessing to the community in the name of Christ. Knowing that over 7,000 people a year come to the Service Center for help, the Board of Directors recognized that the 901 Mesquite facility is too small to adequately serve these people. The new building will more than double the space of the current Service Center. Located at Mockingbird and North 10th Street, it is centrally located in a heavily traveled area. It's near 2 bus stops and has ample parking for both drop-off and pickup.
For 56 years, this building has served as the Woodlawn Church of Christ. But even after it's transformed into the Christian Service Center, it will still be a place of hope for those in need. With help from members of the Abilene community, the Christian Service Center will continue to provide a large center of relief for people in our area who live in poverty.
About 7 years ago, a change happened in my life to where I ended up being homeless with my daughters, which was very unexpected. And the thing I looked for was peace in my life. So people told me I could come here and they could help me to start again with maybe furniture, clothes, and things like that. Everybody here just is so loving and made me feel comfortable. I wasn't really embarrassed to come and ask for help. It was hard. Being a single mom is very hard. I wasn't able to pay one of my bills, so they've been a big, big help to me. Well, my life today is not perfect, but I have 2 very good, stable jobs, and I see that they appreciate things now. And one of them says she would like to go and be a missionary in Africa. And my youngest one, I can say, is just wanting to help. My daughters have great hearts, which I think us having lost what we had and having suffered helped them to be who they are today. I really understand how Christian Service Center can help meet other people's needs. That's when I decided to accept and become a member of the board. I have the peace that I've been longing for. I do, and so do my daughters.
The staff, the volunteers, and the board at the Christian Service Center are so excited about this new location made possible by the generosity of the Woodlawn Church of Christ. And as they launch this major campaign, you're invited to join them as financial partners.
For more than 50 years, the Christian Service Center has been serving the poor of Abilene in the name of Jesus. Through the gift of this large building, we now have the space to serve even more people in need. Already many friends of this ministry have given to our renovation project. We invite you to consider donating to the Christian Service Center capital campaign. And with your help, we'll bless even more of our neighbors and continue this legacy of service.